Hey guys, Mr. Chicken here, welcome back to another video, and I'm going to be honest, I was not planning on doing a review of Matrix Resurrections. In fact, the only reason I did was for you guys, so I could do a review of it on YouTube. So you're welcome. But Matrix Resurrections, it's the fourth film in the Matrix franchise, made, like 18 years after the last installment of it. It's directed by one of the directors of the original trilogy, Lana Wachowski. Keanu Reeves is back, Carrie-Anne Moss is back, and this film, from what I hear, is quite divisive, so where to begin with it? I guess I can start with the fact that this is a film that I really didn't care about. I really loved the first Matrix film, but Matrix 2 and 3 really disappointed me to the point where I just didn't want another installment. I'd had enough. And after Jupiter Ascending came out, that just killed all interest in any more Matrix stuff here. Yeah, I really wasn't too interested in seeing this movie, and I really thought it would be just a blatant cash grab. And to be fair, the film knows it's a blatant cash grab. This film's quite meta without going too far into spoilers, in terms of it acknowledges exactly what kind of a film it is, and the fact that it makes pretty much no sense, because, spoilers for Matrix 3, at the end of it, Neo and Trinity both die. So because of the ending of Matrix 3, this film has to do an unbelievable amount of jumping through hoops just to explain its premise. And when this film was at the start, when it had this sort of mystery of, well, what's going on here, you know, how are they going to explain everything that happens in Matrix 3? At that point it's quite interesting, but whenever they start explaining what's going on here, I kind of just tuned out. It just wasn't as interesting. All of the questions it was bringing up were far more interesting than the answers. The answers which felt very convenient. This isn't really a spoiler, but Neo is in it, and the answer for how he is in it is not nearly as interesting as you would think. What I will say is Keanu Reeves does actually give a better performance than he does in any of the previous Matrix films. He is a very charming presence here, but it kind of diminishes a lot of what goes on with Neo's character in the previous films here, and he almost feels like he's playing second fiddle to so many side characters. Trinity, she's, to be honest, barely in the film, which really weighs down the end of the film, which really relies on the decision she needs to make, and because she isn't in the film that much, the choices that she makes just don't really work. I did really like Neil Patrick Harris as the analyst in this film. I thought he was actually a standout character, and also really like Jonathan Groff. He kind of steals every scene that he's in. As for the side characters, they obviously have a lot less screen time. They are kind of memorable in their own way. You know, they're fun, but they're just not huge parts of the film. There are some presences that I do question where they're there for so-called comic relief, although what I will say is about 80% of the humor in this film doesn't land. The dialogue for the most part just sucks in this movie. There's a lot of them going, whoa, The Matrix is so cool, it was a revolutionary film that everyone loves, and I don't appreciate that. Like, I know The Matrix is good, you don't need to tell me The Matrix is good. Tell me why this film is good, not its predecessor. And so this mixture of pretty cheesy dialogue, it constantly talking up the first Matrix film, it doesn't really talk up Matrix 2 and 3, funnily enough. I can't figure out why. And of course a lot of jokes that don't land just made the dialogue feel very annoying in this movie. It got to a point where the dialogue was so distracting that sometimes it just completely took me out of the movie and strained my investment. Another thing that strained my investment as well is how much they need to explain in order for the plot to even work. And because of that, they explain so much stuff to the point where the pacing is really messy at points. The plot screeches to a halt every time they need to explain things. And honestly, I feel like that's on the writers. There's so much weird sci-fi stuff present in the film that they honestly could have cut down on and just spent less time basically wasting it away explaining things that are happening on screen. Another example of the pacing feeling weirdly drawn out was the end of the film. The ending sequence just, it felt too drawn out. It felt very much like they were basically just copying the end of the first Matrix movie, and it was like, okay, I get that the first Matrix movie is good, but what identity are you bringing out for yourself? And the cheesy last scene at the end didn't work for me. But like I said, this film is very investing at the start. I like the idea of a Matrix film with new characters like Jessica Henwick, like Yahya I'm not going to pronounce his name. And like I said, when they introduce all of these mystery box elements, it is genuinely interesting. However, as soon as the mystery is fully revealed, the impact of it is somewhat lessened. The direction and the cinematography is whatever, in particular visually. There are some good visuals here, in particular the use of creativity when it comes to them basically teleporting in the Matrix, some of their ways that they play around with angles and reflections. That's all really interesting visually, but when it comes to scenes that are just normal, the direction's all very plain. Also, they got rid of the green-blue filter thing that we see where we're in the Matrix, it looks green, when we're outside of it, it looks blue. What happened to that? There's also a tad too much slow-mo in this movie, which is ironic because this is a Matrix movie, this is kind of its thing, but I think they overuse it in places where it doesn't even suit the action scenes. Basically, what I can say about this movie is so much of it is built around these action sequences. They basically storyboarded their action scenes and then built the rest of the story around it. And to be fair to them, these action sequences are great. The problem is the stuff that's built around it just isn't nearly as investing as it thinks it is. One thing I will say is the music is amazing in this film. I was not expecting much from it, but yeah, they do a really good job with that. The editing is fine. On a technical aspect, this film is kind of just bog standard, which is a real shame because I remember the first Matrix for the time being really technically impressive. Even to this day, it still looks really good. In the case of this movie, it kind of just looks like a movie that came out recently. There really isn't too much that distinguishes this film visually, which is a real disappointment for me. Some of the creative choices in this film, it feels like the writers ran out of ideas at certain points. There's a lot of Deus Ex Machinas in the script that, in retrospect, don't make any sense. In particular, Neo, once he gets his one mojo back, he basically just becomes telekinetic, and that's it. It felt really like they were just trying to write him out of a corner. And this film is entertaining, don't get me wrong, but it depends on how you see the Matrix series that determines how entertaining this film actually is for you. I'm someone that doesn't care about Matrix lore. I just want to see an interesting film with some cool visuals, some cool fight scenes, whatever. However, this film puts so much emphasis into where it fits in the lore. The problem is, the lore that this film has is not as interesting as it thinks it is, and I'd really rather they got rid of most of the ties that connect it to the original Matrix and the original Matrix trilogy. You don't need half of the stuff in this film. I just want a self-contained Matrix film. Make a reboot if you want, make this a soft reboot and just ignore all the continuity. Maybe Neo is just some weird computer program where we never find out why he's in this movie. But the fact that they have to go out of their way to explain everything just slows down the pace of this film and takes time away from some of the more interesting elements in this film. Matrix Resurrections isn't a bad film, but it's a film with a lot of wasted potential. There are so many things that this film does well that it really just annoys me that it feels so tied to its identity as a Matrix film. Ironically, the biggest problem with The Matrix Resurrections is its title, the fact that it's trying to resurrect the Matrix. No, leave the Matrix as it is. This is about crafting your own identity as a film, and as a movie it can't do that because it's so tied to the Matrix series. I like a lot of aspects in this film, but for every aspect that's well done, there's something holding it back. If I like the characters, then some part of their lore is holding them back. Oh yeah, there's like people who can predict the future in this. Like, what's that about? If this film was a little more concise, something special could be made. Not necessarily the next Matrix, but still something good. There's promising characters, promising visuals, promising concepts, but the need to link everything together weighed down my overall enjoyment of the film. It's a fun film that you'll forget in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to give The Matrix Resurrections a 5 out of 10. But of course, that's all in my own opinion, so let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of this film. What did you like? What did you not like? Again, let me know down in the comments below, because this is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out my Twitter at MrChickenMovies. But for now, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.